let's go. Here we are at another YEV podcast. YEV?
Why not?
There we go. In unison. There we go. We've got Alex and Kevin in the same room. So this is great. We've got two people on so far. Hello, guys. Or it's probably guys because it's mainly guys. I don't think we've ever had a female on here. Maybe that will change one day. Probably not. But we were literally just about to find out. Kevin has got the new shape Ioniq 5 and has been driving previous to that the old shape. Kevin, tell us while we wait for people to ask their questions, because today we're asking, have people got a question about EVs? Please whack them in the comments. Let us know. Ask a question. Fire away. Kevin, what's the crack? Is the Ioniq 5 new one better?
So I've been very specific with my testing of it. So I deliberately picked one that's the same model spec as mine. So it's the only difference is this is the bigger battery version versus the smaller battery version. So it's the premium spec. So the middle spec, so it's not the top spec. It's kind of the spec that a lot of people would buy. So it's got the 19-inch wheels on it, the same, because I wanted to test the efficiency as well. So it's got the smaller wheels, but it genuinely is a lot of quality of life improvements on it. There's buttons have come back because there's more buttons for things like the heated seats and stuff people ask for. The HVAC controls, you can do more of those without going into the screen. The very quick one-touch things.
People don't know about EVs. What's HVAC, Kev?
Sorry, the air conditioning controls and stuff.
There we go.
The other thing it's got, which lots of people have been asking for, it now has a back wiper.
Yeah.
So it's got a back wiper. Actually improved it massively.
Useful in Wales, especially in winter.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
But there's
bonjour, commuter branch line. We know you're not a lady. Just to clarify. Hi, Dean. How are we doing? Ioniq 5, bigger battery and rear wiper. Is that the summary, Kevin, or is there anything else?
Well, there's a lot more change to it. The interior trims are much better. There's a fit and finish on the doors, and the panels are much more interesting now. So they've got more soft touch plastics on it. What else has it got? It's got ambient lighting on this one as well, so you can change the color. The biggest improvement is the other one had LED lighting, but this has got matrix lights, which I now don't want to go back to LED lights. On the roads to Brecon, they're just superb. Literally, they're on full beam and they block out cars and throw the beam further and stuff. It's actually interesting. It's a bit fog misty on the motorway. You could actually see them working because you could see the beams changing slightly for it because the mist showed that up. It's just as efficient as the other one. It doesn't seem any worse. It doesn't seem massively better, but that wasn't. They've not tried to say that it's going to be better on it. The biggest change as well is the suspension is totally different. It's got a much firmer ride.
It was a bit soft and floppy when I drove one years ago.
Yeah, the old one was quite relaxed, wasn't it? The EV6 was that little bit sharper and a little bit sportier, and it felt like the Ioniq 5 was very much geared around comfort. Yeah. So maybe they've started sharing that setup between the two.
Yeah, I think this might have the variable rate dampers that they added on the Ultimate. Okay. So I think they put those across the range now, or at least down onto the premium one. Yeah. But apart from that, USB-C rather than USB-A ports is the only, I think. The one disappointment, I'll say with it, it no longer has the glove drawer. It's gone to a conventional glove box, which is different because I went to open it. It's like, this is just an ordinary glove box. Oh. But if they've given you matrix lights instead of it, that's probably
a small sacrifice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Talking about suspension, on Rusty, I'd changed a load of the suspension arms bushes, and still there was this very annoying noise, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I took it to my mate Marco in Bedford and realised that actually one of my shocks just needs replacing. So I've got to try and find the money for sorting that out. So yeah, watch this space on Rusty. I'm sure that will be coming up in future YouTube videos. Dean, there is currently a taxi driver in Newport on YouTube, and he's struggling with his Ioniq 5 during the winter, charging issues, slow charging. He says EVs are fit for purpose.
Aren't fit for purpose, presumably. Yeah.
Yes, I'm guessing it's aren't. Yes.
That's interesting, because I do have the old one, which doesn't have the battery heater, but they all have the battery heater as standard now. So you can precondition the battery for rapid charging.
Could you not do that with the old one?
I wonder if it's an early one, because mine does have the issue that in the summer, when the battery's warm, I can pull just under 200 kilowatts off a rapid charger. But when it's cold, it opens the vents on the front on mine to say as if it's like it's going to be really warm, and then charges at 43. And because of the 800 volt architecture, charging it doesn't heat it up particularly that much. So you end up with an issue where it doesn't charge quickly. So I'm wondering, is it an early one without the battery heater?
That's a bit poor if it doesn't have heating for the battery.
Yeah, it was only an option on the Ultimate and the original one, and then it became standard on them all.
Yeah, that one
too. Well, yeah, no charging at home. That's generally speaking, that won't be fit for purpose in my opinion. Kevin in Newport has bought a very early model without battery heater. He also doesn't have home charging. Oh dear. Well, this is why we're here, to answer questions, because if people think, do you know what, I'm not sure if an EV is going to be right for me, then ask the question, because I'm sure between us we could quite easily tell you if it probably is or isn't fit for purpose, whether that's financially or whether that's from a range point of view. If you give us some more detail on your journeys, that's what we're here for. That's what we are here for today. Bazinga.
Speaking of EVs that are fit for purpose, I've also been driving a new Korean EV this week. I took the Hyundai EV.
Wrong brand.
Yeah, we were talking about Ioniqs. It's got me mixed up. Kia EV3 out on Thursday, and I think it's a 5-star car. If you're talking 5 out of 5, I think it's a great little machine. And it's all the best bits of the EV9 just distilled into a package that's pretty much golf sized. And the price is right, the range is good, drives really well. Quite a large difference in ride quality I found between the large and the small battery, even though the larger battery one I took out was on bigger wheels. The smaller one kind of fidgets and bumps over kind of I was driving around the Cotswolds, and it was picking up on all the kind of little fine bumps in the road and so on. So yeah, it was quite interesting. But the car itself is fantastic, superb. They're going to sell loads.
I had a short drive in Milan of the EV3, and I echo that. I thought it was a beautiful drive. Yeah, really, really nice. Really
well judged, isn't it? Yeah, really, really well judged. And all the controls are there's I know that I'm going to sound very biased with this, but I know that with C segment cars, the Golf was kind of seen in a lot of ways as being the kind of getting that just kind of that natural feeling, that kind of naturally intuitive feeling when you're behind the wheel in terms of weight of controls, responsiveness of controls. It does it goes where you want it to in a really predictable way. And I found that with the EV3 is that it's not too sharp. Everything's, there's a nice weight to everything. It's not too heavy. It's not trying to be too sporty. Everything on it just works really nicely. So yeah, I was really, really impressed with it. It's a really good little car.
My only complaint was probably too many buttons, but that's just based on my Tesla Mondeo special. So there's too many buttons. It's like the Ioniq 5N. There's just too many buttons. It's just like just give me a screen.
Back the way now, the Korean. They're starting to put buttons back into everything
based on
they've done too much.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got to say that the South Koreans are really on their A game with the EVs. Basically, well, in general, with some of their other cars, you look at their plug-in hybrid things like the Santa Fe, and it's kind of they're really going for it.
Yeah, it's a shame that the politics isn't going so well over there. I'm not sure if that's going to, affect their car trade at all. But there's an interesting stuff going on there. So yeah, we will see. But yeah, I mean, I've been looking far too many cars. I've been looking at in the used car market. MG ZS, Kia Niros. I tell you what, the Kia Niros have gone. They've come down. There's a lot out there now. I looked on BCA and Mannheim. There seems to be a lot that are just about to be sold. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Kia Niros coming down a touch in price. MG ZSs have come down a bit as well. Konas, there's loads of 30, the smaller battery Konas out there, starting from 12 grand now. So yeah, quite a lot of used EV bargains. Whether that the demand will increase start of Jan. It normally does on all cars, so it'd be interesting to see if that does affect the prices in a positive or negative way. It all depend on that demand. Has anyone tested the new Renault 5 Turbo 3?
Have you seen this?
No, I don't think I've seen it. Does it look tasty?
It's a concept that came out this week, and they're saying they're going to put it into production. 500 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, rear motor, basically a modern version of the R5 Turbo, Maxi Turbo. Wicked little thing. Yes, I can't wait to drive it. I can't wait to drive it. I hope I do get a chance to drive it, or I will weep. I'll settle for a model of it for my office, but I think that's probably about as close as I'm going to manage to get. Amazing little thing.
0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Oh, that's pretty punchy. That is pretty punchy. I mean, to be honest, I just want to drive the normal one. The normal one looks fantastic. I've sat in it, and it's lovely inside, and I love the look of it. I wouldn't mind just driving the normal one, to be fair, because I think I did see a stat that the Renault 5 electric has taken the top spot compared to the Renault to the Model Y in France. Whether that will change when the new Model Y comes out, but you look at the price, and there's a big appetite for French cars in France, isn't there? They're very, very patriotical.
Unless Tesla sets up a factory in France building Model Ys, it's going to be very difficult to reclaim the top spot, I think.
They want them built quickly, mate. So I don't know. And they haven't done them in the UK because they want them to work. So no strikes.
Yeah.
Right, I've got to even it out. Bearing in mind we're in UK. So come on, I love the French. What we've got here. So EV3 looks fantastic. It should sell by the boatload if they price it correctly. The later model Nero electric price wasn't the bargain it once was with the Nero 4 over 40 grand. Wow.
Nero expensive now compared to the EV3. I don't see why. I kind of don't see why I'd go for the EV3 for the Nero over the EV3. No,
I think a lot of the manufacturers are realizing they don't want to butcher the residuals on their existing models, but if they start with a new model, there's no residuals to attack, so you can actually put that at a competitive price point without messing with the residuals. Because you look at Renault 5. What's the top one going to be? About under 30k?
28,995 or somewhere there.
28 grand.
One.
Yeah.
What do they start at then? What do they start at? Like 24?
23, 22,995.
No, really. No wonder they're selling loads.
Yeah, and then what I think, though, it's going to cannibalize Dacia Spring sales because with a lot of people on cars, it comes down to the monthlies. You go into a Renault dealer, they're more than likely a Dacia dealer. You see a Dacia Spring at 15, but then you do most people are on PCPs or equivalent. The monthlies might well be very little, might be 20, 30 quid, and you're getting a Renault 5 with longer range, which isn't as limited as the Spring.
Faster charging, more space.
Well, it's about 130, 140 pound a month for a Dacia Spring, and I love the fact that we've got a cheaper option out there. But yeah, I probably mentioned this before on the live that I wouldn't feel comfortable my family doing a long journey in that because it feels wafer thin, wafer. It's not a Citroen AX, but it's a modern day version as far as I'm concerned in terms of the safety rating, etc. Bought a 3-year-old e-Nero for my other half. Okay, well, I'm thinking about doing the same. Which model did you go for? What mileage was it, and how are you getting on with it? I'm really interested. What year as well, Dean? I'd be very, very interested if you could share that. Because I think the e-Nero would be perfect for us because I think I like the Kona, but it's probably too small. And the MG ZS, the range is just like, should I be paying an extra 2.5? Was it? You can get a MG ZS for about 8.5 grand now, cheapest one, exclusive, 65,000 miles on a 69 plate, and you're paying what? I suppose it's 3.5, 4 grand for a Nero or for a Nero. Mileage is probably another 20k. It's a hell of a lot more car and a hell of a lot more range for that money. But I just wish I knew less about cars and bothered less, and I'd just buy a car. I would have already bought a car, but I'm just a maniac when it comes to that sort of stuff. Can I charge my vibrator from an EV? Of course you can. Of course you can. If it's got vehicle to load, are we talking a female vibrator here, Karma Corner? I'm not sure. There's no kind of potential. I don't know if you're a female or a male, but I mean, you know, vibrator for all sexes. But yeah, I'm sure that's possible if you've got a vehicle to load. So good question though. I like it.
And say with vehicles to load, I mean, you've got 3.6 kilowatts of power. That's probably far too much.
That'll make that vibrator, you know, go for glory.
I'm sure they all charge from USB now anyway, so you can probably charge them in. I mean, I could probably charge them in.
Big one. Yeah. Sounds like you could take a big one. It's a good question though. It's the first question of the chat. So, you know, let's start us off with starting to, you know, get the chat buzzing, as it were. Fantastic. Yeah. Have you guys got any questions you'd like to ask me that isn't about EV conversions right now?
Now you've prodded that particular question. It's I feel like I want to know, but
no. Well, we got the TVR moving forwards and backwards on Friday, so you know, got to drive it forwards and backwards. Only 1 meter and 2 meters forwards, 2 meters back, but that will be coming up in a video on Wednesday. I'm gonna do my best to do some editing tonight, do a little kind of homage of a couple of the early videos just to get the juices flowing. So yeah, exciting stuff. Have you seen any new CHAdeMO chargers going into installations? If not, what's going to happen to leaf values? Let's be honest. I mean, leaf charging for DC is slow anyway, so you're probably best off charging it at home. So it's just going to be one of those, you know, unless you've got like a 62 kilowatt hour, like the bigger battery one, which should be better for longer journeys.
Didn't they charge about 70?
I think they should charge a bit faster. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't remember.
Would you want to? Would you want to on a Leaf? You know, bearing in mind the old.
And then it gets a bit warm.
The batteries might start expanding, and you know, as you've seen their battery packs, you know the ones I mean.
They tried to Hulk smash their way out of the casings.
Yeah, exactly. Love checking that out. Renault Remolt 5 malt. So that makes me want to drink a beer. Right right car, right price. Yeah, absolutely. EV3 looked much better value than Nero. We had the 2019 first edition Nero, 190,000 miles. Wow. Nice. Just tires, servicing, screen wash, front prints. Well, there's one coming up in the auction with 103,000 miles, and I think I might aim for it because there's so many out there at the moment. I'm thinking I might be able to get one for sub 10 grand, which would be a Brucey bonus.
Did anyone see the video that EV Breakers did on TikTok?
Yes.
On the, I don't know what the background on that, why you have to get the taxi has to have a certificate of destruction because it seemed a perfectly serviceable car, but they did the state of health on the batteries at 200,000 miles on an
I missed the battery health test. What was it actually on the battery health test?
97%.
Shut up. Wow, that's probably the usable though, rather than the ultimate one, I would guess. But that is flipping impressive. Okay, right, 100. I'm going to go for that 100,000 mile Nero. It's got to be done. But yeah, just to summarize, I was going to say, Kevin, just to summarize for the video that Kevin was talking about, EV Breakers, great bunch of lads. You can get some great, you know, what batteries, parts, spare parts, all sorts. Batteries from a TVR came from there. Which are great, happy days. But they basically did a video of X-Taxi e-Nero, 220,000 miles. And as Kevin's just pointing out, 97% battery health. That's mint, isn't it?
Yeah.
As you work in charging,
about 10 miles max.
Yeah, 10 miles tops. Yeah.
There we go. As you work in the charging equipment business, any ideas what's happening to Kempower stock values? Are they in trouble? Well, I don't work in charging anymore, not for 6 months. However, I didn't know about Kempower, although there's lots going on I've seen quite a few big projects they've been doing recently. I didn't know about the stock. That's very interesting. But I think a lot of charging companies are going to be having issues at the moment because I think CPOs, charging, the whole industry is not, I wouldn't say, maybe they are struggling a little bit, but I don't think they're the only ones. But I still, you know, put my faith in Kempower and Alpatronic as being some of the best chargers out there. Autel seem to be good as well from a DC charging point of view. I think they'll get through it. Are they in trouble? I don't know. But if I'd have put money on it, my gut feeling says that they will be fine. But if their stock is down, I'm thinking maybe a good time to maybe put some money into them, perhaps. Maybe we should talk about Tesla shares. They're doing all right.
Yeah, probably the same reason that some of the other ones are going down.
Well, yeah. I mean, I sold half of mine when it was about 320. I sold another half of mine when they were like 420, and I still got half of that half left. And I'm probably just going to leave them, to be honest, because I don't know. Although I might need to take them out for, to pay for things. But there we go. But yeah, other questions. Come on, guys. We've got 10 people on at the moment. You must have some EV questions about whether it's modified EVs, EV conversions, charging, EVs in general, efficiency for Kevin. He's a bit of a, efficiency king. We've also got Alex, who's got a fantastic knowledge on the EV world for sure. And I'm not going to start talking about EV planning because I think I spoke about that a lot last time, as Alex will, I'm sure, agree. But very important if you've got a fleet to plan with a certain Dynamon company. But yeah, any other questions, guys, or is there any topics that we want to have a chat about?
Interesting on the CHAdeMO question that someone had. I have seen a new installation with the CHAdeMO. It's a Sainsbury's in Leicester. It's got one CHAdeMO out of the 6 chargers they've got.
Well, they Kempower as well.
Yeah, they're Kempower. That's why I thought so Sainsbury's has got a contract with Kempower. I think all the Sainsbury's chargers are going to be Kempower ones. They work reasonably well. I mean, I didn't have any issues with it. Because I think, which make do the apple green ones? Are they all?
I'm not sure. Okay. I'm not sure.
I know that ones are often labeled different brands as well, under the CPO or what have you. But I think it's quite simple. CHAdeMO is the Betamax, and if people don't remember Betamax, VHS were the winners out of that one, So as we know, CHAdeMO is better from a vehicle to grid point of view and all the rest of it. But unfortunately, fortunately, what is the benefit of CCS2 over CHAdeMO other than speed, I suppose?
Well, single connector plus speed plus, but not much. I mean, CHAdeMO was really well future-proofed when it came out, isn't it? Think about how. How long ago that was developed and how it's still ahead of CCS in terms of certain functionality. But it's a neater thing on CCS. I think it's interesting that seeing the US go the other way, whereas of course you're now starting to get manufacturers fitting NACs to everything. The Tesla standard.
Oh yeah.
To me, feels like a massive backward step. I mean, you've got to nail your colours to the mast really with this one, and just kind of say, look, no, we're too far through. As good as the Tesla network is. Introducing another charging standard and ending up with a position where one or other of those is probably going to have to be phased out at some point seems to me to be completely counterintuitive. And I think in Europe we've got the right idea with it in terms of sticking to one, and everyone's kind of fallen in line with that. And I think that's really positive and really important.
And there's some interesting developments coming to CCS. So things like the Ioniq and the new Konas can do vehicle to grid over AC on them. So they can do it. They can actually switch they can switch the direction of it seamlessly. So it can just signal the car to say it's a vehicle to load adapter or a charging adapter and switch between the two. And you don't need the big DC thing that CHAdeMO used to use to have a DC. Big. It was the big. I can't remember what make it was. They used to have a big charger on the wall which you connected to CHAdeMO for vehicle to grid. Now you don't need all those electronics. They can just tell the car to do it.
Yeah.
So the standard's improved massively. The problem is you do have compatibility issues because it's a bit woolly around the edges on certain things.
Yeah, everything's adapted, isn't it? I mean, this is the thing. Is there will be, because there's future versions of CCS where they're going to have. Well, they're already starting to get certain cars have already got the plug and charge standard integrated, but I think Volkswagen stuff now is using that where it's CCS and it's got plug and charge is a standard where it can communicate with the charging point, and as long as the charging point can communicate back and everything's set up, it means you can plug in like a Tesla charger and it knows the car and it can talk to the car, and those are the foundations of having V2G. So I'm sure Volkswagen Group stuff now has got plug and charge on it.
Yeah. The facelift Ioniq 5 has now got plug-in and charge. It's got the option and everything.
So it's coming. It's just a bit of a shame that it's taken this long to get there.
I agree with Dean. The rollout of DC charging has been great. I mean, we say rapid charging, ultra rapid charging is all I really look for these days, which I think is 150 plus. But yeah, I completely agree. There's loads of charging going out there. There's some really interesting stories of seen on LinkedIn recently about, I don't know, I think it was the case study was BP Pulse. They put in a number of AC chargers and then a few 50 kilowatts, and no one's using the 50 kilowatts because there's a grid serve or something similar CPO down the road, which much faster charging, because it was in a car park, shopping center, and no one's really going to plug into a 50 most of the time because you're going to spend probably more than an hour in there. And your car can, generally speaking, as an average, the average battery size is probably about 50 odd. And so, you don't go in there with fumes probably volts or watts. So yeah, I was like, oh, what should they do? Should they replace them with AC, or should they do this? Should they do that? I said, look, just replace them all with AC bar maybe one, and change the 3 of the 50 kilowatts to 150 kilowatt just for a rapid. And this is the thing where people have put in infrastructure and it's having to be replaced, and whether that's having to be replaced because the speed is just not desirable in that location, or whether it's the fact that the back office system has been stopped, so people can't connect to them, which has been an issue with some of the brands either going out of business or stopping protocols, etc. But there's quite a few questions that are coming, so let's just go through these for a second. CHAdeMO are still being fitted in the last half dozen brand new charger hubs I've been to locally to me, perhaps only 1 out of the 5 compared to CCS. It might be a planning requirement for a while. Yeah, could well be. CHAdeMO fitted in Northern Ireland to YEV, EasyGo and BEP recent installations. Does anyone know if any bi-directional home chargers have come to the market?
I saw somebody who was selling them, but only kind of remaining stock from one of the government trials a few years ago. But yeah, it was a small. I can't think who the company is. You looking like you knew who it was. I can't think what the guy's name is, but he was commenting on one of the. There was a conversation on LinkedIn about it, and it's interesting because it came up around the time that we talked about this on here about buying an old Leaf as a basically as a battery energy storage system for your house, because even the early Leafs have got bi-directional do V2G with them. So instead of buying,
I want to say Verta chargers. I could be wrong.
No, I was thinking about the supplier rather than the actual company, and I can't think what the guy's name is, but they're. They were saying they've got
Indra used to do the DC one.
Indra, I'm sure. I mean, it says on Google here, Wallbox Quasar, Ambiblox DC wall charger, Rectifier Technologies Hybrid. Never heard of that. Emporia, Fermata, and Delta.
I think Indra was one there, wasn't it? That did a lot. Indra was the one that did a lot of the trials, I think.
Yeah. I think Indra have got one. I remember talking to someone on the train going to an EV event, and he worked. I'm sure it was Indra, and they said that theirs is hopefully going to be coming out soon. So yeah, I think it's very much coming, and more the merrier, because you think about it's so the grid. They say grid can't handle it. In some parts, grid can't handle it, and it's just balancing the grid. Being able to turn off some chargers when the demand is so high, and then turning them on when there's no demand, so people can benefit from much cheaper electricity rates. And I think that's going to happen a lot more with fleet charging moving forward.
Going to set tinfoil hot hat people off, saying that they'll turn off your power and then empty your car to control you.
Yeah, that's it. Take off your tinfoil hat, Kevin. Keith Lee, hi Keith. Good to have a response here. Seeing as the battery is the heaviest item on the electric car, the sports car are usually light. Why don't manufacturers produce cars with smaller batteries but with the fastest charging speed? Well, an example of that is the oh goodness me, I did a video on it. It's like a beach buggy, and it's really quick. It's got really good charging, but the battery's quite small. It depends, I
it's
think
a comfort thing. Yeah, it's a comfort. People still want the range. I mean, once you get used to the EV ownership, I think the next going to be a new generation of EVs where, in fact, you're already starting to see it, where there are some quite sensibly, things like the Renault 5 and stuff where people are offering that lower range option, to reduce the price. I think once you start getting people used to what it's actually like living with an EV, especially if they can charge at home, they'll start to realise they don't need it. But I totally agree on this front. I mean, I think a lightweight sports car with faster charging, I think would be really cool.
You say that, but the ICE sports cars that are light, there's not that many about. I mean, MX-5, GT86.
There's not that many sports cars around, full stop.
Yeah, because Cyber's quite heavy.
Yeah, I've got one. I've got a Cyberster over Christmas. It's coming in on Tuesday, which I'm really looking forward to, and it's not being picked up until the new year, so I'll get plenty of time to familiarise myself with that. It's four-wheel drive, so it's a nice, practical
off-road
vehicle. But yeah,
you're going to have the roof down in the winter.
Damn straight, yeah.
One of them. Funnily enough, there was a comment about my TVR saying maybe I should call it the TVRta, as in Miata. I was thinking, maybe I should put a hairbrush in the glove box. Remember when we used to say that about MX-5 drivers? I must have a hairbrush in the glove box. But you don't hear that these days anymore, do you? Because they've actually gained a new kind of, and I think it was a guy from Donut Media that was on the one without the glasses, that was on his TikTok or something, talking about, the car that was, everyone used to take the mick. But nowadays it's like, oh no, everyone knows that is an engaging car to drive.
These days you'd have your vape in the glove box instead of your hairbrush, wouldn't you?
Yeah, maybe.
So one of my mates had an MX-5. He was doing an early one. I went out to the Nürburgring with him in it, and he was doing 8-minute 44 laps of the Nürburgring, which is
good.
Pretty bloody fast. And we had a British Mitsubishi Evo 7 or an 8, and the guy got back to the car park at the Nürburgring, pulled in. He said, "What the hell have you got under the bonnet of that?" And we said, "Oh, just 1.6." He goes, "Oh, turbo." He goes, No, just naturally. We just weren't slowing down for the corners. And he was just like, there's a picture of me sat in the passenger seat pulling the most unbelievable, my organs are all getting compressed into one side of my body face. But it was around that sort of time that all of these cars started getting really, people started getting interested in them. They're really quite fashionable now, MX-5s.
So Foxanne said, trouble is C rate, bigger batteries charge quicker. 3C on 50 kilowatt hour is 150. 3C on 25 kilowatt is only 75. There we go.
That's why 800-volt architecture helps, but the 800-volt architecture tends to be in the bigger cars, because that's the one thing EV doesn't have, even though it's on the EGMP platform, which is the same as EV9.
Sorry, what doesn't have the 800 volt?
EV3 doesn't have the 800 volt from the.
It's LFP. It's LFP though, isn't it?
No, I'm sure it's NMC still. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's got the same 84 kilowatt hour pack that the Ioniq 5 I'm in at the moment is. But I'm guessing they didn't put the 800 volt charging on it to save. I'm guessing it's more expensive to do 800 volt charging.
That's a very good question. What's our opinion on Chinese taking over the European EV market? I'm sure Alex has got answer to that straight away. Go on, Alex. What do you reckon?
Long story. I'm kind of a bit mixed on this one. I think
you've only got 25 minutes left, Alex. Just to clarify this,
I'll summarise. I mean, I think the European manufacturers have been victim a little bit of taking the easy route out 20 years ago and kind of going big on diesel. And unfortunately, they're kind of reaping what they've sown in that respect. The Chinese manufacturers saw the longer term picture with that, and they put all their time and effort into EVs, and they're now making really good affordable EVs. Now there are other political things that are influencing that. There's state support for those manufacturers in China, which is certainly helping, and they're being aggressive with what they're doing. But they're churning out some very good products at really affordable prices. And they're exerting downward pressure on the European and American manufacturers and Japanese manufacturers as well. So from the point of view of taking over the market, I mean, I think it's putting that, the cat among the pigeons, isn't it? It's making everyone else pull their fingers out and develop better cars. But it is obviously putting an enormous amount of pressure on the incumbent manufacturers.
When he said cat amongst the pigeon, all I could think of
it took me a minute to figure out what you meant.
Yeah. The gold cat in the window.
Lucky cat.
I always wondered why it was just a waving cat. I thought
That was him slamming
wrong,
down Mercedes and Audi, just going bang, bang.
There's a lot of the things is they did, a lot of the European manufacturers partnered with the Chinese to make stuff. I mean, they obviously didn't learn anything from that because obviously
they had to give away all of their all their information, didn't they? Had to give away all of their blueprints of all the stuff that they do, and obviously, yeah.
But if you look at history, we've had, early Japanese cars were classed as being a bit of a joke. They improved and got better than most of the native ones. Same with the South Koreans. Look at, with EVs, the South Koreans are really on the A game with it, better than a lot of the European ones. So why wouldn't the Chinese, do that? It's almost like we teach them, but then stop improving our own cars and let them continue with the improvements.
Yeah.
So I think it's, that's why, what's the British car industry now? I mean, we haven't really got any native brands left apart from a few niche ones.
Stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we've got any mainstream brands left anymore, have we? You've got the big ones like Aston Martin and Lotus, but then Lotus is now owned by Geely. So.
Yeah, I think literally, Alex and yourself probably hit the nail on the head there. It's the long game, isn't it? And they were, buying up African land for all the resources and all the rest of it early, like years ago. They knew what they were doing, and the other manufacturers have gone the easy route. So, is there another long game to be looking at now? Is there okay? Well, the Chinese are doing this, this, and this. I think they need to have a sit down and think, okay, well, they're clearly going to cream the next, however, like 5 years. We need to think about the next thing. But I mean, the amount of debt that they're all in, I don't even know if that's possible for them.
E-fuels and hydrogen are going to be that's going to be the.
Wash your mouth out, Alex.
To get these EVs, they're not going to work. They'll never take off. Just you want to be pursuing e-fuels and hydrogen.
It's definitely the way forward. Definitely the way forward. Look, and if anybody's not watched our videos on hydrogen and e-fuels, go back and watch them, because I think we had a very balanced debate and had some really good conclusions from that, just based on them not working. My grandfather bought a 95 Hyundai Accent quality, brand new, 5995. It was a bit crap. Look at them now, 65k for a Hyundai Ioniq N. Yeah, it's the desirability of these Korean brands. I mean, you look at the EV9s. I wonder how many Land Rover, Range Rover owners have gone into an EV9. I would say that it'd be probably quite a large
thing. If it had a Land Rover badge on the front of it, it'd be 50% more expensive, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want to put a curse on it being at the side of the road, Alex, let's be honest.
Or on fire in the car park at Luton Airport. That seems to be the other thing they're getting a reputation for.
This is it. Well, I think we've got a few more Chinese brands coming in next year in the UK. And it seems like we're not going to have any tariffs so much in the UK. So I think in the UK more so compared to Europe, because you think about the amount of, you got the French manufacturers, you got the German manufacturers. I think UK is going to be the prime place for Chinese manufacturers just to sell their wares.
We'll become a bit like Norway, because Norway, you see a lot of the Chinese brands you don't see here. XPeng have been in Norway for ages, and they come into the UK before Europe, I think, aren't they?
Yeah. Neo, you don't see many Neos about. Well, I don't think I've seen one other than at shows. XPengs either. You don't see many BYDs on the road. I've only ever seen like 2 Seals.
Yeah. When you look at the marketing they've done, because BYD has sponsored seems to have sponsored every sporting event for the last year, haven't they? So they're doing the marketing, but I don't know if that's translating into sales.
There's a Dolphin on the school run with us.
Oh, is there? Okay. Yeah. I've not driven one yet, but I've sat in one. I think it's really nice. It was a top spec one, and they're still selling the lower spec ones for $249 a month, $249 in on 4 years, which is a fantastic deal. I mean, you can get a Leaf for like $180 a month, but it's a different kind of thing. Have you driven it yet?
The Dolphin?
Yeah,
the Dolphin. I drove the Dolphin a year ago. It's a fantastic little car, and the Seal as well. I mean, the Seal's a fantastic thing. The Seal, I think both of them struggle with the one area where the Chinese manufacturers haven't quite got the European market right is in terms of the intuitive sort of touchscreens and so on. They're a little bit too much like tablets.
right,
and a little bit too. They don't feel like automotive, navigation systems and things like that. So
pushing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
So they have very fussy displays, very fussy interactions, and things not quite where you'd expect them to be. I mean, actually, the people that are setting the standards on that front at the moment, I think, are the Koreans. I think the Korean touchscreen systems are absolutely top of their game at the moment. Really easy to use.
Well, Foxhound Follies just mentioned Leap Motor looking promising. I've not really seen. I've seen, I think, a couple of their cars, but I don't know too much about them yet.
That's the link up with Stellantis, isn't it? Yeah. So I mean, I think we'll see more of the European brands partnering with. So like initially in China, they partnered with European brands. I think you'll see the reverse, where now Chinese brands, the European brands, are partnering with them in the European markets. I mean, and that will potentially get around the tariffs, because if they do some of the manufacturing in Europe, the tariffs don't apply. I mean, you look at the States. With the States, a lot of the Kias are built in the States. There's an EV9 factory in the States, so they have, I think you'll find more of the Chinese brands building factories in Europe now, or taking over factories that don't, the other manufacturers pulled out of.
And obviously, it's worth pointing out that companies like BYD. I mean, BYD makes something like half of all the world's iPads. They're a huge kind of manufacturing company, regardless of the cars. It's a bit like Hyundai has got the other interest. Hyundai ships Hyundai cars on Hyundai boats made with Hyundai steel. They're enormous vertically integrated companies with all sorts of other interests to kind of support them. And so almost the car business doesn't have to really make huge amounts of money, I guess, in the first few years, because it's propped up by all the other interests. They can kind of come in and be quite aggressive with it. Yeah. It's a tricky time, I think, to be a kind of, I'm not going to use the L word, but to be a kind of a traditional car manufacturer at the moment.
You want to say the legacy, you want to say it.
A few of them will survive, but they're going to have a tough time, and they're going to have to really, really work on that.
So Sandy Munro of Munro Associates waxes lyrical about the Japanese car invasion in the USA in 1980. He knows the history will repeat itself with Chinese manufactured EVs in EU, GB, and USA. Absolutely. Yep, 100%. Sandy said he was also amazed how the British engineers were out in China teaching them how to build a car. One thing about China as well is the amount of money that they've invested in engineering schools. I remember seeing the stats. It was just like, the amount. You look at UK compared to China, how much money they're pumping into, training and development of their people, so they're making better products. It's just mind blowing. But
I interviewed one of the back guys at Geely, and he was saying that over there, he was saying the same thing. It's large scale government investment in future proof, just specialising in technologies and making sure that's there, which is the opposite of what Trump seems to be intent on doing in the States. Without meaning to get too political on the whole thing, and Trump's insistence that you stick with old technology because it's cheaper will just mean you get a brain drain to places like China, where they're queuing up for battery specialists and people who know stuff about power electronics and all the rest of it. They want all of that there, because and they're just hoovering up all the best people from elsewhere.
I mean,
I don't disagree with that. I suppose the thing that they've got issues with is they need to start building that country back up, because it's on its knees when you look at the amount of money that they're putting in interest rate on, like $7 trillion that they're spending each year. And they literally got 1 trillion of that is the interest on what they're paying. That's why the Doge is coming in to cut it all back. So I think they've got a little while to go before they can start focusing on those sort of things. And the UK, well, it's probably best not to talk about them. I'm just waiting for Khan or Urban to start making body kits for the EV9. It's what a new Land Rover should have been. That would be quite cool. You remember the Khan wheels back in the day?
Yeah, I do very well. I used to do stuff back in my Max Power days. I used to do stuff with the PRs at Khan when he used to do all the product stuff for Max. So yeah, I remember them. Do you know what? I mean, actually, speaking of modified cars and modified Kias in particular, I mean, I think the warranty thing perhaps doesn't help in terms of modifying them. They've got to be quite old cars before you can start getting into anything that might affect the warranty. I'd really quite like to build an EV9. I reckon an EV9 dropped on some nice wheels would be quite a good looking thing. I drove the new EV9 this week as well. I was just looking back at pictures of the old one and thinking, Yeah, I could see. You know, I'd be
You
quite
mean EV6, wouldn't it?
EV6, not EV9. Sorry.
EV6. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm talking about the EV6.
I've seen some quite cool. Just change, whacking on some coilovers and some wheels isn't really going to affect the warranty. It doesn't affect the warranty on a Tesla because that they're consumables, aren't they? So it doesn't really, really affect it that much as long as you're not slamming it on the ground and trailing the battery everywhere, like I do with Rusty. In fact, I've noticed that I've actually lost one of my the motor bottom dirt guards, so I need to order one of those. Oh dear, not good. But yeah, I'm going to raise it up. So my plan is to buy some Mountain Pass Performance Comfort height adjustable coilovers. So they're less expensive. They're on sale at the moment, 1,500 quid. I'm going to raise it up a little bit because it's too low. I keep catching it on stuff when there's horrible bits and bobs on these UK roads which are rubbish. But I don't think it would affect warranty just putting some coilovers on and some wheels. What size wheels do you think you could go on? 24s?
I reckon you'd certainly be up in the 20s. There's some really good looking. I put modified EV6 into Google earlier, so I put up a thread about driving the new one, and I got a thread of. I mean, there were renders, but nonetheless, I was looking at like, yes, that looks good.
Isn't Ioniq 5 really good on 22s? So if the platform supports 22s,
yeah,
you could easily get 22s on it.
I'm all over that. Oh, that'd be a very cool thing.
There's not much rubber on the 22s, to be fair, on the Ioniq 5N.
No, you'd end up with wheels that look like a 50 pence piece driving a car like that around.
Talking about modified EVs, the ID3 looks much better with a nice set of alloys. Yep. Absolutely. The standard alloys look terrible, if you ask me. Absolutely. I remember buying ID3s and used, and we'd stay away from the ones with the hubcaps on and only buy the ones with the alloys, and the alloys were pretty... There is one on the bigger battery one. They're black with the silver round. They look quite cool.
That looks like they're meant to look like the IDR, the Spikes Peak Racer. The wheels on that are meant to look like that, like the ones on the ID.
But talking about price, you can now get an ID3 for 12 grand. And I've got a theory, and I know my theories don't always work, but this one's a good one. So my dad's car goes back in January. I think in February, March, there's going to be ID3s flooding the market from that crazy deal that they did for a lot of customers on a 70 plate just before Christmas. So I think you're going to see lots of early ID3s come in sort of February, March time. So I reckon they're going to be hitting sort of 10 grand about that time. And I did do a video on a guy that had modified an ID3, nice wheels. He'd wrapped the rear tailgate, so instead of black it was the same color as the car, and it looked straight away, it looked like a Golf R because of the shape. Look looked really, really good. Go back and watch the video if you fancy watching it.
They look tall and thin. It's a bit, the Puma suffers from this as well. Ford Puma suffers from this a bit as well. The ID3 always looks tall and boxy in pictures, but it actually looks more, it's a nicer shape in real life, and certainly at certain angles it looks really very Volkswagen-y and kind of it hasn't quite got wide enough arches to be Volkswagen-y. I think that's one thing I've seen they're correcting on the ID2. But it looks good. Set of wheels transforms a car.
Yeah, I actually parked the Ioniq 5 because I'm doing my advanced test, and the coach for my advanced test has got a Golf R and stuff, and I parked the Ioniq 5 next to it, and his Golf looks like a toy compared to it because it looks small and low, whereas this one, and the power-wise, the one out there is 228 PS, so it's not slow.
I want to see pictures of this.
Well, it's a bit like I shared on Instagram the picture of the new RS6 GT, which is in the same color as the old Audi A1 they used to do with the white and the Audi Sport colors. Looks amazing. There's only 660 been made, and I think there's only about 60 coming to the UK. So this is at Northampton Audi. Whack on Chargeheads Instagram if you want to see pictures. It does look amazing. Obviously, it's not EV. However, apparently they're going to be doing an EV RS6, and the performance looks a bit rubbish. Have you seen the stats for it, Alex?
I haven't seen. I've seen stats for the S6, but I haven't seen stats for the RS.
Oh, okay.
We covered one of them on here, didn't we? I think it was the S6 we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure I saw the RS6 and like the 0 to 60 was like 4 seconds. I was thinking it's a bit pony. Bearing in mind it was like when you saw the RS6 0 to 60 when the Mark III came out, the one after the V10 Lamborghini engine one, that was the 0 to 60 of about 3.9. And back then, for a big car like that, we were like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Times have changed, though, of course. Yes, I agree, Alex. EV6 with few mods looks great. I follow a guy on YouTube who is into his modified cars. He has a lovely white EV6 with subtle mods with black wheels.
And I'll have to look it up. Let me know the channel. I'll look that one up.
Does Mountain Pass Performance have UK distributor? Yes, they do. That is RHEL Engineering. The IDR promised so much from the ID range of vehicles. Yeah.
As did the ID3. What do they call it? I think it was the
GTX.
They did no, not the GTX. They did a concept of the ID3, which was a dual motor one, and they haven't put that into production. I don't know why they did the ID as well. Yeah, I don't know why they did the ID3 as the GTX when actually it's if you're looking at stuff like four-wheel, consider they did the IDR, covered it in R logos, and then generally speaking, hot Volkswagens with four-wheel drive have always been R models. So surely it would have made sense to call the ID3 the ID3R, the ID4 the ID4R, and just leave the GT stuff to the two-wheel drive, to the petrol stuff for now until it's people, that's what I think. Anyway.
I'm a bit worried about a dual motor ID. Does that mean it's got drum brakes in the front as well? Because they said that it doesn't need drum disc brakes because of the
because the motor.
So if he's got a motor at the front, is it drums all around?
Nothing wrong with
so for people that don't understand that one, ID3s have drum brakes at the back, which was supposed to be best for probably cost saving from VW Park. Now they've gone down the toilet.
It's for regen.
But yeah, apparently it's supposed to be smoother, less friction, so better range. Not sure where that range went. My dad agreed with my statement earlier, and he's followed that up to say, which is why I did not buy my 2020 ID3 via PCP. Yeah, because it was in negative equity, unfortunately, like probably everybody else. Just ordered another one on lease. Once bitten, not shy. So we're all good there. From used EV perspective, I'd stick with Kia, Hyundai for the warranty, and Tesla for reliability, and now plentiful used parts. Absolutely. So yeah, true. I agree. Oh, e-modifications. Oh, I like that. That's a wicked sound for a YouTube channel. E-modifications.
You're taking a photo of the screen.
Excuse me.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna check it out. Are there any other cool YouTube channels that people know like that?
I've got a couple of weeks off over Christmas, so I desperately need to be filling in the screen time that I would normally be spending during work hours on YouTube.
256 Chargeheads videos to watch.
I was just going to say, I've got some catch up to do.
You forgot to plug your channel as the coolest EV channel, didn't you, Tim? Or of course, YEV as well.
This is a balanced podcast, Kevin. I'd never try and steer people to, my channel unnecessarily. I'm here to celebrate all modified EV channels. But obviously, yes, Chargeheads UK for modified EVs and EV conversions, and got very exciting videos coming soon. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a lot of videos at the moment. So I think 2025 is going to be a big year for certainly shows around that as well. So we've got some plans for some more EV meets. In fact, there's an EV meet in Cambridge on Saturday, the 4th of January. I'm going to be down there. It's going to be some modified EVs. There's going to be some pretty cool stuff, including a Tesla Model 3 with a Miltech exhaust and some pretty cool body kit, which I'll do a video on as well. So yeah, good stuff coming up. So we've got 5 minutes ish left. Has anybody got any more questions? Is there anything we want to talk about next, chaps, before we sign off for everyone to enjoy the rest of their Sunday evening? What's coming up this week? Anything going on before now and the end of the year in terms of EV releases? Or I don't think there's much going on, is there?
This week is I've been stockpiling work to do this week that doesn't involve having to speak to somebody in terms of getting more. I've built up a to-do list for this week and the first week of January, because I just find this the next couple of weeks ends up being a bit of a dead patch in terms of getting hold of people. If you haven't got stuff in the bag, it's quite hard to kind of keep the momentum going. So yeah, it's usually a bit of a quiet one this week because I don't think anyone's covering it. Although, true story. So back in my Fleet World days, we decided one year not to do any newsletters in the final week before the Christmas holidays, and that was the week that Saab went belly up and Renault cut its model range in half. And so we suddenly had to kind of go, right, actually, we do need some newsletters this week. But yeah, it was we always did the newsletters, and they were always kind of ended up being kind of top 10, top 5 winter driving tips from X or Y driving school and all the rest of bits and pieces like that, which there's a place for, right? But it's not like, this kind of open rate's probably not going to be all that good. And as I say, that week, Saab and Renault both went through quite a shake-up. So
Renault seems to be hitting the mark with the designs at the moment, don't they? For EV.
Have you looked up the Turbo 3 yet, Tim?
I will now. Let's just go through some of the comments here. I'm really looking forward to seeing what small, cool EVs hit the road in 2025. Absolutely, I completely agree, Dean. Did you just say exhaust? Yes, I did. And also, Rusty's getting exhaust fitted on the 10th, the Thor exhaust. I'm going to do a full video of that. But I won't be doing ice noises. I'm going to start off with probably horse, move on to sheep, probably chicken, and then finish on some more space age sounds, because I think it'd be hilarious with animal noises, just because I'm sad. And
is that why you're increasing your ride height so you can fit it underneath?
Well, I have got off-road mode, so maybe I do need to turn it in off-road, but I don't think that's going to help the range to get me to Southampton and back in one charge, unfortunately. Yes, particularly the Renault 5. I think we all want to check out the Renault 5. What was the especially this one that you just said? So was it the Renault 5? Tell you what, why don't we all do this? Renault 5, what was it? The Turbo 3?
3E, I think it's called.
3E. Oh dear. Oh.
Yeah.
500 brake, rear drive.
Yeah.
What? I mean, if anyone's seen it, I think I covered it on the Goodwood Festival of Speed video, which I did this year. And we got to see the Renault 5. I think it was the concept or the rally, or it was like similar to that, not quite as spunky as that, but that was on the Goodwood track.
The Alpine one, maybe.
No, it wasn't the Alpine. The Alpine was there. So the Alpine, the Renault 5 was there, but then there was this one that they took on track, which looked similar to that. So, big boy stuff. Any word of the timeline for the new Tesla Model Y Juniper? Oh, yeah, that's a good one. No, I've got no idea. I could ask a question, and I'll try and remember to. Well, I'll ask him now, and hopefully I'll have it for next time, because he's pretty high up in the Tesla world. He got to sit in the cyber taxi, and I had to stand behind the line, and I wasn't even allowed to sit in it. I wasn't even allowed to go around the back of it. It was in London, but it did look amazing. Although if you go around a corner, the seats look about as support worthy as I don't know, a broken bra. I don't know, something like that. Give me an Opel Manta EV. Oh, don't. What do you think of that? If they brought the Manta back as an EV?
Why not? Why
EV? Why Opel Manta EV? Why not? Winter EV driving tips would be handy as well.
I've actually got some videos. I'm going to promote a channel I've done stuff. So actually, I've done 2 sets of winter driving tips for Nathaniel Cars, which are an MG dealer. So you can check those out and stuff.
I've also been writing winter.
Let's look at this platform for a second, Kevin. What are the winter tips, please?
It's more about things like preheating and stuff like that. It's preheating, the usual stuff you do with a petrol car and stuff, like tires and stuff, because that's the only point of contact with the road. So they're not necessarily just EV winter tips, because you do need to still check the stuff that you check in a fueled car. So
make sure that your under trays aren't missing. I think it's a top tip of mine.
Or hanging down would be the other one, where it would act as a shovel if you went through snow.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of one that I do. Probably just don't accelerate hard. Just chill. Just don't go too crazy. Wear a big coat. Turn off the heating.
Or press the snow mode button if it's an Ionic 5.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah, use your heated seats, not your air conditioning. Until every 7 minutes, you need to turn your air conditioner on to dehumidify, because your windscreen's gone all steamy. That's my EV life at the moment. Dodge Charger EV looks cool too. And funnily enough, you talk about the EV Dodge Charger, and we know that the sound is it sounds amazing. It's really loud. And I didn't realize how much work that they did on making it sound like that, because they've got like an echo chamber or something like that. So I think the Thor exhaust that's getting fit to mine is not just going to be, because you can get a single, a double, and then they do this one with the extra speakers, like a triple speaker, which is supposed to be good for, like, I don't know, backfires or surround sound. Not that I want to be doing backfires and ice noises in mine.
Popcorn exhaust.
C-spec. C-spec. Do some EVs still have snow mode? The zero
EV
bikes
does.
Yeah, all the Kia and Hyundai stuff, new stuff does. You just hold down the button on a lot of them for drive mode and it switches to snow. It just changes the throttle response and makes it very gentle. Not more efficient, weirdly, though. Eco is still more efficient, so I don't know why it's doing slightly differently.
Maybe it's also heating the battery.
Well, it's not going to work in my one then, is it? I haven't got a battery heater in mine.
Well, I'd like to say thanks everybody for listening and everyone contributing. Really, really helps the podcast. Make sure you give us a like, whack on a comment there as well, because it just helps promote the channel a bit more. And please share. So thank you so much for everyone for listening today. It's been a great chat, guys. Have you got anything to add?
No, just the same to say. Really, it's nice that we've got a group of a group of listeners who tune in and ask questions and contribute to the conversation, because I think it really adds to the discussion to kind of have that audience participation.
And I think that chap Karma, whatever his name is clearly fully charged his device. There we go. Karma Corner has clearly fully charged his device. We've not heard from him since then. So happy days. I'm hoping
zero emission pleasure.
On that note, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you